With the women's softball season up and running, we thought we would get a women's softball guest. Danae Hays played softball for Alabama, winning a championship, playing on some great teams. But as you can tell, that's not going to be the subject. She's also, I'll try to speed it up, Danae, because I don't want to keep you waiting. But you're a comic. You've released a couple of comedy country songs. I don't even know how to describe you, but I can't wait to say hello to you. Good afternoon.
How's it going, Paul? Thank you so much for having me. I really do appreciate it.
So I don't have to pretend to be stupid because it's part of my natural act. But do you realize what you're getting into on the Paul Finebaum show?
No, but man, let me tell you, my dad and I, we have spent hours in the car together driving to and from softball practice, listening to your show. So I think I told you in commercial break, Catherine was always my favorite caller. So my dad is pumped that I'm on the show today. He's listening. So shout out to my dad. But you've been a household favorite of ours, Paul.
Well, I'm going to throw a curve. We're just going to talk softball about your career. We were showing some video of some of your biggest moments, and you had plenty. Let's go back 10, 12 years. I mean, that had to be a rush playing at Alabama for Coach Murphy, and really at the time, arguably the best softball program in America.
Yeah, that was a dream of mine since I was a little girl. College softball is really the pinnacle. If you're going to play softball, that's like the highest of highs. And growing up in Morris, Alabama, only about an hour away from Tuscaloosa, the University of Alabama was it. I had my sights set, on Alabama for a long time. Weirdly enough, I actually signed my national letter of intent my senior year to play at Auburn. And then some things happened, and I went and committed to the University of Alabama in August, and then won a national championship 6 months later. So it all worked out.
I'm afraid to ask what happened after your softball career because to get where you are today. But take us through a little bit. How did you get into the entertainment business?
Yeah, it really all started with TikTok. During the pandemic, I posted a prank phone call, and that prank phone call, I think it got like 25 million views. And so I was like, well, shoot, I'm just going to start posting funny videos. I've always made funny videos, especially as a kid. So once my TikTok following really grew, I was able to just build a really strong team around me of people that believed in me. And then, yeah, and then we got a stand-up tour kicked off, and I just got back from being on the road. I think we did 9 shows in 10 days, and we're getting ready to announce a bunch more. But yeah, it really all started from TikTok, and it's weird to say that because I had no intentions of going this direction. I was an online fitness coach at the time, and so just people supporting me on social media has just allowed me to blossom and follow my dreams of going into the entertainment sector. So it's been a wild ride.
Danae, I've had agents contact me about comedy tours, and I've always said there's no way. I'm not. I mean, it's different to sit here and talk about sports, but to stand up in front of a crowd. I mean, how did you prepare for that once it started taking off, and where do you go for the material?
That it's funny you say that because that was one of my biggest, worries of like, I know I can be funny in this setting of making TikTok videos and creating an online presence, but how am I going to translate that to the stage? And I think the biggest thing that I had to remind myself is that I'm a Southern storyteller. I'm not your 1-2 punch type of comic where, I have real short bursts of funny jokes. Mine are just long Southern stories that have funny moments from the beginning to the middle to the end. And so I've just really leaned into that. That's who I've always been. My dad is one of the funniest people I know, and the way that he tells jokes and his humor unravels is always through storytelling. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to be what I am, and I'm going to be a Southern storyteller. And then we got into the country comedy space of writing songs, which is a completely different beast in itself. So during my stand-up set, we put songs throughout it. So I'll tell a funny story, and then I'll sing a song that correlates to that and marries that story really well.
And your second country single we have on the screen is "All It Takes." The first one we don't have on the screen because we're owned by Disney. It's
A lot of innuendos. We'll just say that. A lot of play on words. I will say I may have gotten a phone call from my grandmother after I
I mean,
released.
the name of the song, come on, today is Road Hard. I mean, I know I've listened to the song. I know what it's saying, but uh,
It's about a boat, Paul. It's about a boat.
so I mean, do you? So I'm really curious about the songwriting part of it because is that more for your act, or are you really serious about being an artist in that genre?
Yeah, so I think there's two buckets we're trying to fill. When I'm songwriting here in Nashville, with these brilliant minded artists here, the first bucket is to, write songs that make sense for the actual live comedy show. And then the second bucket is to curate and come out with some awesome songs that are wrapped up in a comedic bow tie, So, am I trying to be the next Carrie Underwood or Miranda Lambert? No, but I definitely want the song to be rich. I want all the songs that I'm putting out to, sound really good. I want you to be able to bop to them in your car, on your boat, and vibe with them. But they're all going to have a comedic undertone to them. So we're working on a full length country comedy album. And some of the songs that we've put in the actual stand-up set may make their way to the country comedy album as well, but I won't be able to release those until I'm done touring because I don't want to burn those jokes,
No, no, I get it. So let me talk about the comedy part of it because I love interviewing. We had Nate Bargatze on a couple of years ago when we were in Nashville. I didn't know who he was, and somebody said, "How about you realize that guy you had on Saturday Night Live?" I go, "Oh, okay. I didn't think it was that funny." But but um, I, I've always talked to comedians. We had Foxworthy on a couple years ago, which was just almost impossible to interview somebody that funny. And they always talk about the opening has to kill, and I've never completely understood it. So is that true? And how nerve-wracking is it as you walk out there, knowing you have to be funny from the beginning?
Yeah, I have to remind myself, energy is so real. When you walk into a room and it's stale, you got to be able to change that energy. Or if the energy is really good and you walk out on stage and it's just so vibrant, you got to be able to take it up even a notch from there. Um, One thing that I think a lot of comics do is they take the city that they're going to and they find something that particular audience can relate to. Maybe it's a particular joke wrapped around a certain town that's near that city, or a stereotype about that city. And if you can make them laugh in those first 20 seconds and relate to them, then I think you're off to a good start. But it's challenging, I don't want to use the word strategy, but there is a lot of forethought going into that first 60 seconds because you want that energy to be good, and you want them to be vibing with you. But I think the safest bet is to poke fun at them a little bit with something that feels like home to them.
I mean, I've never done comedy other than in kitchens at parties. And there, I've always thought I was the funniest person in the world. But the one thing I do know when you go into a room to speak or whatever it is, you know pretty quickly, do you not, whether this audience, I mean, if you go to a comedy club or some type of, you expect to want to laugh, but I've been places where they do not want to laugh. And I'm sure you have too. And what do you do when you have a bad crowd and you have to get them going?
I did an event not long ago. It was about 300 people, and it was just an industry event for just music executives. That was it. So they were very much a, arms crossed, impress me crowd, Um, with that, I think the only thing you can do is continue to just stay true to how you like to deliver jokes. Fortunately, that's only happened once where it just feels like a very stale, um, claustrophobic situation.
Well,
um,
I
Go
would
ahead.
think too, Danae, that the I only have the personal experience. Right after I got married, my wife is a physician, and she wanted me to speak to a group of doctors. And I've always thought the smarter, uh, and the higher the group is, the less they are going to laugh. I mean, I want a group of drunks in Morris, Alabama, who just came off the shift. Yeah, I mean, those, to me, those people want to have fun. Where the doctors, now I was going to include lawyers, but they're not a respected classification of people. But you know, accountants, doctors, engineers, rocket scientists, radio executives.
Well,
They're the worst.
I'll tell you this. Not many doctors and lawyers are probably coming to a 8 p.m. comedy club,
I think
you
you're
know, and
right.
the ones that are probably they're a little looser, you know. But if a doctor's office called me and said, "Hey, we want you to do a private show,"
Let's do
I'd be like,
waiting
you know
rooms.
what? Yeah, I'd be like, I don't know if this is my crowd.
No, by the way, don't. After that, I said, never again, because I mean, there are certain groups that, and you know them, television executives. But what were was the music, because the music crowd does not look very loose either. I mean, but they're important, aren't they? How do you get from joke one to saying goodbye?
Well, to be honest with you, Paul, I kind of took a different approach during that crowd. I poked at them a little bit,
Ooh.
you know. 'Cause sometimes the best way is you got to be able to laugh at yourself, you know. So I think taking that angle, but yeah, that was a tough crowd. I mean, I'm getting into the music scene, so to do this show in front of 300 music executives, you know, the air was pretty tight in there. But I think the best way is to make them laugh at themselves. But so far, the crowds that I've had for my comedy tour, they've been amazing. A lot of southern crowds. We've hit up North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Birmingham. So it's fun to see the different energies in each city. We just played the Stardome, and it's by far my favorite venue we've played so far.
How much is your home state a part of your act? Say, once you say, I grew up in Alabama, that should get you a laugh most places, shouldn't it?
It definitely does, and there's a lot of jokes to be made. I play a lot of characters, a lot of Southern characters. I have one that's called Sharon Jean. My family member doesn't know that Sharon Jean is based off of her. I'm not going to tell her that, but
I'm sure
yeah,
she's not watching.
yeah, hopefully she's not. But yeah, Alabama is as intertwined with my comedy as my family is. It's just a part of who I am, and I'm proud to be from Alabama. The amount of stories I have just from growing up in this region of the country is what allows me to do what I do. I think if I would have grown up somewhere like New York or California, I don't know if I'd be quite as funny.
So where, I hate to sound like an adult here, but I'll try to be. Where does all this go from here? I mean, you're already pretty hot on the comedic tour. You've got singles out. Where do you hope to take it?
You know, I'd like to eventually get to a worldwide tour. I have a pretty big audience over in the UK and Australia, so I'd love to be able to take my little Alabama self across the pond. And I just got back from shooting my first movie down in Florida, so I got a taste of acting. That's been a big dream of mine since I was a little girl. And I'd love to eventually be able to play comedic roles in movies like, the Kate McKinnons or the Adam Sandlers of the world. I'd love to be able to translate my characters that I've created on social media and have those in a movie, like Eddie Murphy did with The Nutty Professor, how he was able to play both. So just if I was looking down the pipeline, that's probably the big trajectory of where I'd like to go.
Danae Hays, the Eras Tour. Has that been done yet? I guess not. But this is too much fun. I can't thank you enough for coming on, and hopefully this appearance does not completely torpedo your comedy tour.
Hey, Paul, maybe one of these days we'll have you open up for me.
I would love to.
Start writing those.
A quick story.
Writing those jokes.
It was actually in Alabama. We were a couple of years ago, we were at Greg Burns' house, the athletic director. And Laura Rutledge and I, we were doing the SEC Nation show, and we started going back and forth in the kitchen and started drawing her crowd. And I must say, when we left, we drove back together. We both looked at each other and said, we are the funniest two people on the face of the earth. And when does the tour begin? That was 5 years ago. We're still waiting for the first date.
Hey, I tell you what, I'll get my agent to contact you, Paul.
Okay. Thank you. Great to see you. This has been so much fun. We wish you all the best and hope to talk to you again very soon.
Thank you so much, Paul. I appreciate y'all.
You bet. Former softball star at Alabama turned comedian turned country singer. We'll take a short break. We're back after this.